So this is a tutorial that we're going to be covering how to factorize quadratic expressions. So quadratic expressions are always going to be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. That just means that we're going to have something that is something an x squared. We're going to have another thing that just has an x, and then another thing that doesn't have an x. So if we see something like this, we're going to need to be able to recognize that this is a quadratic expression. So there's the way of factorizing a quadratic expression is quite different to the way that we would factorize the other ones that we have been dealing with. So say when we have this first question here. So the first thing, when there's just a 1x squared, so here there's just a 1x squared, it's a little bit different to when there's, say, a number other than 1, but for the junior or ordinary level course, there'll just be 1x squared in the questions that we have to do. So say for the first one, x squared plus 2x minus 15. So what we're looking for is we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give the number that doesn't have an x. So two numbers that multiply to give minus 15, that multiply, and we might call these the factors of minus 15 to give, sometimes use the word factors, so other known as factors of minus 15, factors of minus 15, but when we put them together, they have to add to give the middle number, the number attached to the x, so they have to add to give 2, to give 2. So I'm looking for the factors of minus 15 that add to give 2. So say the factors of minus 15. If I multiplied a plus by a plus together, I would have got a plus. So I couldn't have had two pluses to get minus 15. If I multiplied a minus by a minus, I also would have got a plus. So I couldn't have got two minuses to get minus 15. The only way I could have got minus 15 was if I multiplied a minus by a plus. So then I would have got a minus. So when I'm multiplying two numbers to get minus 15, one of them will have to be a minus and the other will have to be a plus. So the first one I would say would be 15 by 1. So one of them will have to be a minus 1. So 15 by minus 1. Or minus 15 by 1. Another one I could have is 5 by minus 3. Or minus 5 by 3. So if I add 15, take 1, put 15 minus 1 together, that's 14. Minus 15 plus 1, that's minus 14. 5 take 3 is 2. So 2 is the one I want. So what I do is I form two brackets. So two brackets, and I put x in each of them. So the first one, so one of them is plus 5 and the other one is minus 3. So x plus 5, x minus 3. And that is that factorized. So now we'll move on to the next one. So here we have x squared plus 6x plus 5. So we're looking for the factors. So two numbers that multiply to give 5. Two numbers that multiply to give 5, but they have to add to give 6. So they have to add, those two numbers add to give 6. So say factors of 5. Because 5 is a plus, we could have multiplied two pluses together to get it, or we could have multiplied two minuses together to get it. So 5, I could have had 5 and 1, or I could have had minus 5 and minus 1. So 5 and 1 will go together to give me 6. So I do two brackets, I put an x in each of them, and then in one I'll put plus 5, and in the other I'll put plus 1. And that is that one factorized. So here we have, this is when it's equal to 0. So when we have like a quadratic equal to 0, we have to go on with the exact same way that we're used to doing it, factorize it first, and then there's just going to be an extra step at the end. So say we want to factorize this first. So we want the factors of our minus 6, factors of minus 6 that add to give minus 5, that add to give minus 5. And we saw already that the only way we can get a minus if we multiply two things together is if we have a minus and a plus multiplied by each other. So say the factors of minus 6, we could have had 6 by minus 1, we could have had minus 6 by 1, we could have had 2 by minus 3, or we could have had minus 2 by 3. So if I have 6 take 1, that's going to be 5. But minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5, so that's going to work. So I'm just going to write my two brackets and then equal 0. So the first one I'm going to put x minus 6, and the other one I'm going to put x plus 1. So the last step is when we have two things and we multiply them to get 0. So say if we had the number 6, the only way we can get 0 if we multiply it by a number is if if we have one number multiplied by another number and the answer is 0. The only way that our answer could be 0 was if one of those was if we're multiplying one of them by 0. So if we have this by this and the answer is 0, one of these have to be 0. So we have to let each equal 0, let each bracket equal 0. So x minus 6 equals 0, x minus 6 equals 0, and then x plus 1 equals 0. And now we have to get, say, x's on one side and then numbers on the other side to get what x actually is. So if I have x minus 6 equals 0, what I can do is I can plus 6 on both sides, or I can say if I'm minusing 6 on one side and I move it over to the side, it's going to be a plus. So plus and then minus will cancel. So x is equal to 6. And then I can minus 1 from both sides here. So minus 1, minus 1. So that will cancel with that. So I'll have x is equal to minus 1. So that is quadratics. They're kind of the ones that have, say, a 1x squared. So notice that there's only an 1x squared. So these ones are covered, these are on the ordinary level course and the higher level course. But now I'm going to go on to the ones that are mainly just on the higher level course. So these ones here are, say, just higher level. So if you're doing ordinary level, if you want to have a look at these also, but these won't be on the ordinary level exam. So the rest of this video is going to be higher level. So when we have, say, a number in front of our x squared, there's two different methods that we can use to factorize this. So I might go through, I might get a different page and go through both methods. So 2x squared plus x minus 10. The one that I think is the easiest and the method that I use all the time is the guide number method. And I find that I think it's easier for students to pick up as well because there's not as much trial and error. So I'm going to use that first. So and then I'm going to do the other method after. So the first one, the guide number method. So I multiply the number in front of attached to the x squared by the number that doesn't have an x. So 2 by 10, and I get what I call my guide number, and I'm calling my guide number 2 by minus 10 is going to be minus 20. And then I'm looking for the factors, so two numbers that multiply to give minus 20. So say before it was this number that we wanted the factors of, but now it's our guide number. So two numbers that multiply to give minus 20, multiply to give minus 20, but they have to add to give 1. So there's 1x squared because it's 1x squared, so that could be a 1, so the number attached to the x. So add to give 1. So factors of minus 20, I would have had to multiply a minus by a plus. So I could have had 20 by minus 1, minus 20 by 1, 10 by minus 2, minus 10 by 2. I could have had minus 5 by 4. Could add 5 by minus 4. So the one that will add to give me 1 is 5 minus 4. So I'm not gonna factorize anything yet, but instead of writing down 1x on my next line, I'm gonna write 5x minus 4x. So 5x minus 4x, and then I'm gonna bring down my minus 10 and my 2x squared. So now what I have to do is I have to factorize the first two and the last two, and my brackets are going to have to be matching. So what can I take out of 2x squared and 5x? Well, I can take out x, and then I'm left with 2x plus 5. So here I could take out a 2, but if I take out a 2, I'll be left with minus 2x minus 5. But I want my brackets to be matching, so I'm going to take out a minus 2, and then I'll be left with 2x plus 5 equals 0. And then what I do is when my brackets are matching, I know I've done it right. So x and the minus 2 come together in one bracket. So x minus 2, and then the 2x plus 5 go in a bracket by itself. So then I'm at the final stage, so it's equal to 0, so I have to let each of them equal 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. So I can plus 2 on both sides, so I'll get x is equal to 2. Here I can minus 5 from both sides, so 2x is equal to minus 5. But just here there's a bit of an extra step, so I don't want 2x, I want x. So what I'll do is I'll divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to minus 5 over 2. So there are two answers for x. So, and the other method, which I said I would go over also, is kind of the method that some teachers would use. So this, say we're going to start from scratch here. So what happens is we have two brackets, and whatever's in here by whatever's in here has to multiply to give 2x squared. So we usually put an x in one and 2x in the other. Right, so what goes in here and here are factors of 10. So numbers that multiply to give, of minus 10. So numbers that multiply to give minus 10. Multiply to give minus 10. So we're going to put numbers that multiply to give minus 10 in here, but the x by whatever's in here plus whatever's in here by our 2x has to, what this multiplied by that plus this multiplied by that has to give our number in the middle, which is 1. So say the factors of minus 10, I would write them out first. So minus 10 and 1. 10 by minus 1, I could have had minus 5 by 2 or 5 by minus 2. So say if I stick in, so I can do trial and error kind of at the start. So say if I was to put in a minus 2 here, so I'll just see if it works. So minus 2 here, and then if I was to put in a plus 5 here. So minus 2 by 2x is minus 4x, and then x by 5 is going to be 5x, and when I put them together I get x. So then that's that factorized this way, and then at the end I just let each of my brackets equal to 0. So the same as before. So it depends on which way you want to do it. But say the next one, 8x squared minus 14x plus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to use the guide number method for this one, because sometimes when there's a high number in front of the x squared, I think it's easier. So the guide number here, guide number is going to be 24. So I'm looking for the factors of 24 that give me minus 14. So factors of 24 would be, so it's a plus 24, so I could have had two pluses multiplying to get it. Or I could have had two minuses multiplying to get it. So so I could have had 24 by 1. I could have had minus 24 by minus 1. I could have had 12 by 2. Or I could have had minus 12 by minus 2. I could have had 8 by 3. Or I could have had minus 8 by minus 3. I could have had 6 by 4. And I could have minus 6 by minus 4. So we don't have to write out all the factors each time, but I think it's helpful just to see, then we can, if you can't find the factors, to write them all out. So we want minus 14. So the ones we're going to have to go with is minus 12 by minus 2. So instead of writing minus 14, I'm going to write minus 12x minus 2x. So then I'm going to bring down my 8x squared and then my plus 3. So then I factorize the first two, so what I could take out of them would be, say, 4, and then I'm left with 4x, sorry, and then I'm left with 2x minus 3. And here, because I want my brackets to match, I'm going to have to take out minus 1, so then I'll be left with 2x minus 3. When there's nothing that obviously to take out, nothing obvious that we can take out 1 or minus 1. So then we put our 4x and our minus 1 in a bracket by itself, so 4x minus 1, and then the 2x minus 3 together. So then we let our 4x plus 1 equals 0, sorry, 4x minus 1 equals 0, and then 2x minus 3 equals 0. So then if we add 1 to both sides, we'll get 4x is equal to 1, and then if we divide both sides by 4, because this will cancel, then we'll get x is equal to a quarter. Here, if we plus 3 on both sides, we'll get 2x is equal to 3. And if we divide both sides by 2, we'll get x is equal to 3 over 2. So that is, I hope you found this helpful on factorizing quadratics. Thank you.